They say blood is thicker than water, that family bonds are unbreakable. But what happens when the very people you trust, the ones who share your name, conspire to shatter your world? This isn't just a story about a wife's betrayal. It's about the insidious deceit of a brother, the manipulation of a family, and the quiet unraveling of a life built on a foundation of lies. Just wait until you see what a seemingly innocent family video montage exposed about the people I called my own. My name is Michael. For most of my life, I've been the quiet one, the unassuming presence in a family dominated by charisma and loud personalities. I found solace in my routines, in the predictable rhythm of my life with my wife, Sarah. She was my anchor, my calm in the storm, the woman who understood my quiet nature. And then there was Daniel, my brother. Charismatic, charming, the life of every party, the family favorite. He was the one everyone gravitated towards, the one with the easy laugh and the quick wit. Despite our differences, Daniel and I shared a bond, a history that stretched back to childhood. He was my closest confidant, the one I turned to for advice, the one who always seemed to have my back. Or so I thought. Our family, from the outside, was a picture of warmth and unity, especially at our annual reunions, where appearances were everything. We were the perfect family, a testament to shared values, mutual respect, and a deep, abiding love. I believed in the transparency of our relationships, the unspoken understanding that we had no secrets from each other. I was the man who stood by his family through thick and thin, through the triumphs and the tragedies of a life intertwined with those I loved. Until the day the silence grew too loud, the distance too vast, the unspoken truths too heavy to bear. Until the day the people I loved, the people I trusted, began to reveal the rot beneath the polished surface, a rot that threatened to consume not just my marriage, but the very fabric of my family. It started subtly, like a faint, almost imperceptible crack in the foundation of our seemingly solid marriage and family bonds. Sarah and Daniel, usually so open, so engaged, began to drift. Their conversations became hushed, their glances furtive, their laughter a little too forced when I entered the room. I'd attribute it to the stresses of life, the demands of their respective careers, the complexities of family dynamics. They were busy, I told myself, and I, as the understanding husband and brother, needed to be patient. But the emotional distance grew, a chasm opening between us that no amount of shared dinners or quiet evenings could bridge. Our conversations became superficial, devoid of the intimacy we once shared. They'd dismiss my concerns with a wave of their hand, a patronizing smile, or a quick change of subject. I'd find myself staring at them across the dinner table, strangers in my own home, wondering where the people I loved had gone. The unease grew, a persistent hum beneath the surface of our perfect lives. It was like a tiny, persistent crack in a priceless piece of pottery. Individually, each discrepancy was minor. Collectively, they began to form a dissonant chord, a subtle warning that something was fundamentally wrong with the harmony of my marriage and the integrity of my family. I noticed a new, almost possessive attachment to their phones, a quick flick of their wrists to hide the screen when I walked into the room. They started taking calls in private, their voices hushed, their demeanors guarded. They, who had always been so transparent, so open, were now shrouded in a veil of secrecy. And the more I observed, the more I realized that this wasn't just about a casual distraction. This was about a deliberate, calculated act of deception. A hidden life they were building, one secret at a time, outside the confines of our marriage and our family. The unexplained absences became more frequent, more glaring. Sarah would have girls' nights out that stretched into the early hours, her phone conveniently dead when I tried to reach her. Daniel would be working late on a new project, his car conspicuously absent from his usual parking spot. Individually, these might have been dismissed as normal occurrences, but together they formed a pattern, a rhythm of deceit that began to resonate with a chilling familiarity. I'd noticed subtle changes in their appearance. A new perfume on Sarah that wasn't mine, a faint scent of a different cologne on Daniel's clothes. Their eyes would meet across a room, a silent understanding passing between them, a secret language I was excluded from. They'd share inside jokes, their laughter echoing with a familiarity that felt alien to me. It was as if they were living a parallel life, a world where I was merely a peripheral character, an unwitting prop in their clandestine drama. I tried to rationalize it, to dismiss my growing suspicions as paranoia. They were family, after all. My wife, my brother. The thought of them betraying me, of them conspiring behind my back, was too painful to contemplate. But the evidence, though circumstantial, began to accumulate, a relentless tide of unsettling observations. The way they'd quickly change the subject when I entered a room, the sudden silences, the nervous glances. It was a dance of deception. A carefully choreographed performance designed to keep me in the dark. And the more I observed, the more I realized that this wasn't just about a casual friendship. This was about a deliberate, calculated act of betrayal, a hidden life they were building, one secret at a time, with a person who was supposed to be my closest kin. The incriminating evidence arrived not as a sudden explosion, but as a slow, agonizing drip. Each drop a corrosive acid eating away at the last vestiges of my trust. It began with a misplaced phone, Sarah's phone, left carelessly on the kitchen counter. A notification flashed across the screen, a text message from Daniel. My heart pounded in my chest, a frantic drumbeat against my ribs. Curiosity, a dangerous serpent, coiled in my gut. I picked it up, my fingers trembling, half expecting a mundane family update. What I found instead was a meticulously compiled dossier of betrayal, a chilling chronicle of their infidelity. The messages were explicit, filled with pet names, inside jokes, and intimate details of their secret rendezvous. There were photos too, not just of them together, but of them in compromising situations. Their faces too close, their smiles too intimate, taken in places I recognized. A secluded park, a dimly lit restaurant, even a discreet hotel near Daniel's apartment. Each photo was accompanied by precise timestamps detailing their stolen moments of intimacy. The raw, visceral pain of discovery hit me with the force of a physical blow, leaving me gasping for air. It wasn't just the infidelity. It was the audacity, the blatant disregard for our marriage, for our family, for the trust I had placed in them. The digital evidence was a dagger, plunged deep into my heart, twisting with every word, every image. It wasn't just a betrayal. It was a desecration of everything I held dear. The truth, unvarnished and brutal, lay bare before me. And in that moment, I knew, with a chilling certainty, that my life, irrevocably altered, could never be the same. The initial shock was a suffocating blanket, leaving me numb, disoriented, unable to process the enormity of the double betrayal. My mind reeled, replaying every subtle sign, every evasive answer, every shared glance. The puzzle pieces, once scattered and meaningless, now clicked into place with horrifying precision. The woman I had loved, the man I had trusted implicitly, were strangers, masters of deception, living a double life right under my nose. The pain was immense, a raw wound that throbbed with every memory of our shared life, our shared purpose. But beneath the heartbreak, a cold, calculated resolve began to form. My first instinct was to confront them, to scream, to demand answers, to unleash the torrent of pain and rage that threatened to consume me. But then a different thought emerged, a quiet whisper of strategy, a flicker of my own understanding of the family dynamics. I knew Sarah. I knew Daniel. I knew their temperament, their ability to manipulate, to deny, to turn the narrative against me. A direct confrontation would only lead to a messy, emotional battle, a public spectacle that would leave me vulnerable and exposed. No. I needed to be strategic. I needed to use my knowledge of their world, of the family's obsession with appearances, to my advantage. The emotional toll of living with this knowledge was immense. I felt a profound sense of isolation, unable to confide in anyone, trapped in a silent world of betrayal. But the pain began to morph into a steely determination. This wasn't about a momentary outburst. It was about justice, about reclaiming my life, and about exposing the truth in a way that would resonate, not just with me, but with the family they had so brazenly betrayed. The digital evidence was my weapon, and I, the quiet man, would be the architect of their downfall, using their own carefully constructed world against them. Daniel, my brother, had always been the family favorite. Charismatic, charming, he effortlessly commanded attention, his opinions carrying more weight, his successes celebrated with more fervor. I, the quiet, unassuming one, often found myself in his shadow, content to be the supportive brother, the loyal confidant. He had always pretended to be my closest ally, offering advice, lending a sympathetic ear, even when I spoke of my marital woes. The betrayal cut deeper because it came from him, from the one person I believed I could always trust. the one who had always seemed to have my back. His manipulation wasn't just limited to his affair with Sarah. It was a pervasive thread woven throughout our family's history. He had a way of subtly undermining others, of subtly shifting blame, of subtly positioning himself as the victim or the hero, depending on the situation. I began to see it now with horrifying clarity. The times he had helped me with a project, only to subtly take credit. The times he had comforted Sarah during our arguments, only to subtly drive a wedge between us. He was a master manipulator, a puppeteer pulling strings, and I, along with the rest of the family, had been his unwitting puppets. The family, obsessed with maintaining a facade of perfection, had always indulged Daniel, overlooking his flaws, excusing his transgressions. His charisma was a shield, his charm a weapon, and his manipulative tactics had gone unchecked for years. But now the truth was laid bare, and the realization that my own brother, my closest confidant, had been systematically deceiving me, using my trust against me, was a bitter pill to swallow. The betrayal wasn't just personal. It was a betrayal of the very concept of family, of the sacred bonds that were supposed to be unbreakable. And in that moment, I knew that this wasn't just about exposing an affair. It was about exposing the rot at the heart of our family, the toxic influence that had festered for far too long. As I meticulously planned my strategic unmasking, a subtle yet persistent anomaly in the digital evidence began to surface. The text messages, while explicit, contained cryptic references to the old house, to Grandpa's secret, to the truth about the inheritance. A fleeting thought, a whisper of unease, suggested that Sarah and Daniel's affair and Daniel's manipulative behavior weren't just about personal gratification or a desire for power. There were subtle mentions of hidden documents, of family secrets, of a legacy built on lies in their conversations, all linked to a long-standing family dispute over an ancestral property. It looked like their affair and Daniel's public persona were not just about personal indiscretion. They were a distraction, a brilliant, cruel smokescreen. While they were busy cultivating their secret life and I was consumed by their infidelity, a far more insidious plot was lurking beneath the surface. A plot to exploit my trust to gain access to family assets, or perhaps to cover up a dark secret from the past. The betrayal was a dagger, but these digital breadcrumbs, these brief, unsettling glimpses into a world beyond simple infidelity, felt like a poison, slowly seeping into the very core of my being. It hinted at a deeper, more insidious betrayal, a connection I couldn't yet grasp, but one that promised to unravel far more than just my marriage. This wasn't just about a broken heart. It was about a broken trust on a much grander, more manipulative, and potentially criminal scale. And I had only just scratched the surface of a family conspiracy that threatened to expose generations of deceit. The digital dagger, the irrefutable evidence of Sarah and Daniel's betrayal, had pierced through the illusion of my quiet life. The initial shock had given way to a cold, calculated resolve. Confronting them directly was not an option. Their charisma, their manipulative nature, their ability to twist narratives. I knew they would deny everything, gaslight me, and turn me into the villain. But I also knew my family, the intricate web of unspoken rules and the obsession with appearances. I had spent years observing the dynamics, the subtle power plays, the unwritten codes of conduct. This knowledge, once a passive understanding, now became my most potent weapon. My decision to act was not born of rage, but of a cold, calculated resolve. This wasn't about emotional revenge. It was about justice, about holding them accountable for their betrayal, not just to me, but to the very fabric of our family, to the trust they had so brazenly violated. The thought of exposing them, of bringing down the people I had once loved, was agonizing. But the alternative, allowing them to continue their deceit, to continue manipulating the family, to continue living a lie, was unthinkable. I knew the risks, the potential for backlash, the accusations of being a bitter husband, the possibility of shattering the family facade. But the need for truth, for an end to the agonizing uncertainty, outweighed every fear. I would use their own system against them, a silent, insidious force that would dismantle their lives, piece by painful piece. The stage was set, not in a courtroom, but within the hallowed halls of our annual family reunion, and the curtain was about to rise on Sarah and Daniel's true characters. My plan was meticulous, a chess game played in the shadows of our family gatherings. The goal was to expose their deceit at the annual family reunion, but in a way that would make the evidence undeniable, ensuring maximum impact and minimizing any suspicion on me. I knew the family's obsession with appearances, the importance of maintaining a perfect facade. I crafted a carefully curated collection of evidence, stripping away any personal emotion, presenting only the cold, hard facts, the photos, the text messages, the details of their secret rendezvous. I made sure to include specific details about their shared secrets, about Daniel's manipulative tactics, about the subtle ways they had undermined me. This would lend authenticity to the anonymous source, making it appear as if a concerned family member, a disgruntled relative, or even an internal whistleblower was exposing the truth. I used a secure, encrypted drive to store the evidence, ensuring no digital trace could lead back to me. I timed the revelation to coincide with the family video montage, a moment of shared nostalgia and vulnerability, further amplifying its impact. Every detail was meticulously planned, every piece of evidence chosen with precision. It was a silent, insidious operation designed to trigger a confrontation that would expose Sarah and Daniel's deceit, not through my direct confrontation, but through the very family they had so brazenly betrayed. The evidence was not a weapon of destruction, but a tool of revelation, designed to expose the truth, no matter how painful that truth might be. The annual family reunion, a cherished tradition, became the perfect stage for my meticulously planned unmasking. It was a gathering where appearances were everything, where smiles were plastered on faces, and unspoken tensions simmered beneath the surface. Every year, we'd gather at Grandma's sprawling estate, a place steeped in family history, a place where memories were made and traditions upheld. This year, however, it would be the setting for a different kind of memory, a different kind of tradition. The family video montage, a highlight of every reunion, was the ideal moment for maximum impact. It was a time when everyone's attention was focused on the screen, a time when emotions ran high, a time when the guard was down. I knew the family's love for nostalgia, their sentimental attachment to the past. This would be their undoing. I had volunteered to compile the video montage this year, a seemingly innocent act that would provide me with the perfect cover. I spent hours sifting through old home videos, photos, and digital archives, carefully selecting moments that would evoke warmth and laughter, moments that would lull them into a false sense of security. And then, at the opportune moment, I would insert the truth, a series of digital bombs disguised as innocent family memories. The reunion, once a symbol of unity and love, would become the crucible of truth, a place where the facade would shatter. And the true nature of Sarah and Daniel's betrayal would be laid bare for all to see. The stage was set, the actors were in place, and the curtain was about to rise on the most dramatic family reunion in our history. Crafting the video montage was an exercise in psychological warfare, a delicate balance between nostalgia and brutal truth. I started with the innocent, the heartwarming moments, childhood photos, family vacations, holiday gatherings. I wanted to evoke a sense of warmth, of shared history, of unbreakable bonds. This would make the contrast with the truth even more jarring, even more devastating. Then, meticulously, I began to weave in the incriminating evidence. Photos of Sarah and Daniel, their faces too close, their smiles too intimate, taken in places I recognized, a secluded park, a dimly lit restaurant, even a discreet hotel near Daniel's apartment. Each photo was accompanied by precise timestamps detailing their stolen moments of intimacy. I interspersed these with screenshots of their text messages, their conversations filled with pet names, inside jokes, and explicit declarations of love. I used subtle transitions, fading in and out, making the insertions almost imperceptible at first, allowing the family to slowly process the visual information before the full impact hit them. The culmination would be a final slide, stark and unambiguous, that would shatter any remaining illusions. I spent hours on the technical aspects, ensuring seamless integration, perfect timing, and maximum visual impact. The video montage was not just a collection of images, it was a narrative, a carefully constructed story of betrayal, designed to expose the truth in the most public and undeniable way possible. It was a silent scream, a visual indictment, a testament to the power of truth, even when delivered through a seemingly innocent family video. As the family reunion approached, a quiet hum of anticipation settled over me, a strange mix of dread and exhilaration. I maintained a calm exterior, a mask of normalcy, interacting with Sarah and Daniel as if nothing were amiss. Their casual smiles, their easy laughter, their feigned affection, it all felt like a cruel mockery, a performance designed to keep me in the dark. But beneath my composed facade, a storm raged. Every shared glance between them, every hushed conversation, every subtle touch fueled my resolve. I watched them, these two people who had so brazenly betrayed me, moving through the family gathering with an air of impunity, oblivious to the digital sword hanging over their heads. The tension was almost unbearable, a silent scream trapped within my chest. I rehearsed the moment in my mind over and over again, anticipating every reaction, every possible outcome. Would they deny it? Would they try to spin the narrative? Would the family turn against me? The questions swirled, a relentless torrent of doubt and fear. But then I would remember the pain, the humiliation, the shattered trust, and my resolve would harden. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about truth, about reclaiming my dignity, about exposing the rot at the heart of our family. The anticipation was a crucible, forging my determination, preparing me for the inevitable explosion. I was ready to shatter the facade, ready to expose the truth, ready to face the consequences, whatever they may be. The family reunion, once a symbol of unity, was about to become the stage for a reckoning, a moment of truth that would forever alter the landscape of our lives. As I meticulously prepared for the unmasking, a subtle yet persistent anomaly in the digital evidence began to surface. The text messages, while explicit, contained cryptic references to the old house, to Grandpa's secret, to the truth about the inheritance. A fleeting thought, a whisper of unease, suggested that Sarah and Daniel's affair and Daniel's manipulative behavior weren't just about personal gratification or a desire for power. There were subtle mentions of hidden documents, of family secrets, of a legacy built on lies in their conversations, all linked to a long-standing family dispute over an ancestral property. It looked like their affair and Daniel's public persona were not just about personal indiscretion. They were a distraction, a brilliant, cruel smokescreen. While they were busy cultivating their secret life, and I was consumed by their infidelity, a far more insidious plot was lurking beneath the surface. A plot to exploit my trust to gain access to family assets, or perhaps to cover up a dark secret from the past. The betrayal was a dagger, but these digital breadcrumbs, these brief, unsettling glimpses into a world beyond simple infidelity, felt like a poison slowly seeping into the very core of my being. It hinted at a deeper, more insidious betrayal, a connection I couldn't yet grasp, but one that promised to unravel far more than just my marriage. This wasn't just about a broken heart. It was about a broken trust on a much grander, more manipulative, and potentially criminal scale. And I had only just scratched the surface of a family conspiracy that threatened to expose generations of deceit. The moment arrived. The family, gathered in Grandma's spacious living room, settled in for the annual video montage. Laughter and nostalgic murmurs filled the air as familiar faces from childhood flashed across the large flat-screen TV. I sat quietly, a knot of anticipation tightening in my stomach, next to Sarah, with Daniel on her other side. They were relaxed, oblivious, occasionally whispering a comment about a funny moment from years past. The montage began innocently enough. Grainy footage of childhood birthdays, awkward teenage dances, and sun-drenched family vacations. Each clip, each photo, was a carefully chosen memory, designed to evoke warmth and unity. And then, subtly, almost imperceptibly, at first, the shift began. A photo of Sarah and Daniel, their heads a little too close, their smiles a little too intimate, flashed on screen, quickly replaced by another innocent family shot. A ripple of confusion, a slight hesitation in the laughter, but it passed. Then another, and another, each one a little more explicit, a little more undeniable. A screenshot of a text message, blurred at first, then slowly sharpening, revealing a pet name, a suggestive phrase. The laughter died down, replaced by a growing murmur of unease. Heads began to turn, eyes darting from the screen to Sarah and Daniel, then back to the screen. Their faces, once relaxed, now began to contort with a mixture of confusion and dawning horror. The room, once filled with warmth, grew cold, the air thick with unspoken questions. The innocent family video montage had become a silent, insidious weapon. Each image, each word, a carefully placed bomb slowly detonating in the heart of our family. The facade, so meticulously maintained, was beginning to crack, and the truth, unvarnished and brutal, was about to explode. The final slide appeared, stark and unambiguous, a digital exclamation point on the unfolding drama. The screen, once filled with smiling faces, now displayed a single, chilling sentence. Some family bonds are meant to be broken. A collective gasp rippled through the room, followed by a stunned, deafening silence. It was as if the air had been sucked out, leaving everyone breathless, suspended in a moment of profound shock. Sarah's face, a mask of horror, drained of all color. Daniel, usually so composed, so charismatic, looked like a deer caught in headlights, his eyes wide with disbelief and dawning terror. The dawning horror on their faces was a mirror of the dawning realization on the faces of our family members. The whispers began, growing louder, more insistent, as the full weight of the revelation settled upon them. Aunt Carol, usually so jovial, clutched her chest, her eyes wide with disbelief. Uncle Bob, a man of few words, let out a low whistle, shaking his head. My parents, their faces a mixture of confusion and profound sadness, looked from the screen to Sarah and Daniel, then to me, their eyes pleading for an explanation. The silence was shattered by a single, choked sob from Sarah, a sound that was quickly swallowed by the rising tide of murmurs and gasps. The family facade, so meticulously maintained for decades, had shattered into a million pieces, revealing the ugly truth beneath. The video montage, once a symbol of unity, had become the instrument of their unmasking, a public indictment of their deceit. And in that moment, I knew, with a chilling certainty, that nothing would ever be the same. The silence, once deafening, erupted into an explosive confrontation, a cacophony of shouts, accusations, and emotional outbursts. "What is the meaning of this, Michael?" Daniel roared, his face contorted with rage, his usual charm replaced by a raw, animalistic fury. "How dare you?" Sarah shrieked, her voice trembling with a mixture of anger and fear. I stood my ground, calm amidst the storm, my voice steady, unwavering. "The meaning, Daniel," I said, my gaze fixed on his, "is truth. The meaning, Sarah, is honesty." The family members, initially stunned, began to take sides, their voices rising in a furious chorus. "Is this true, Daniel?" "Sarah, how could you?" "Michael, what have you done?" The accusations flew, a barrage of questions and condemnations. Daniel, ever the manipulator, tried to spin the narrative, to deny, to gaslight. "It's a misunderstanding. Michael's clearly unstable. He's making this up." But the evidence, the photos, the text messages were undeniable. They spoke for themselves, a silent, damning testament to their deceit. Sarah, cornered and exposed, resorted to tears, a desperate attempt to elicit sympathy. But it was too late. The family, tired of Daniel's manipulative ways, tired of the facade, had seen enough. The confrontation wasn't just between me and them. It was between truth and lies, between integrity and deceit. The shouts escalated, the accusations grew sharper, and the emotional outbursts reached a fever pitch. The family reunion, once a symbol of unity, had become a battleground, a place where years of unspoken resentments and hidden truths finally exploded into the open. And in the midst of the chaos, I felt a strange sense of calm, a quiet satisfaction. The truth, finally, was out. The reactions of our family members were a kaleidoscope of emotions, a testament to the profound impact of the revelation. Aunt Carol, initially shocked, quickly shifted from disbelief to a quiet, simmering anger. "I always knew there was something off about Daniel," she muttered, her eyes narrowed, "always so slick, so charming." Uncle Bob, a man who rarely showed emotion, simply shook his head, a look of profound disappointment etched on his face. My parents, their faces a mixture of confusion and profound sadness, struggled to reconcile the image of their charismatic son with the man exposed on the screen. My mother, always the peacemaker, tried to intervene, to calm the escalating confrontation, but her pleas were drowned out by the rising tide of accusations. My father, usually so stoic, simply turned away, unable to look at Daniel, his silence a more powerful condemnation than any words. But then, a surprising shift began. Cousins, aunts, and uncles, who had long harbored their own resentments towards Daniel's manipulative ways, began to voice their support for me. "It's about time someone stood up to him," my cousin Emily whispered, her hand resting on my arm. "He's always gotten away with everything." Their support, initially hesitant, grew stronger, a collective sigh of relief that the facade had finally been shattered. They had seen his manipulations, his subtle undermining, his constant need to be the center of attention. They had endured his charm, his charisma, his ability to twist situations to his advantage. And now the truth was laid bare, and they were ready to embrace it. The family, once divided by unspoken resentments, began to coalesce around me, a silent testament to the power of truth and the enduring strength of genuine family bonds. The confrontation wasn't just about Sarah and Daniel. It was about the family reclaiming its integrity, shedding the toxic influence that had festered for far too long. Sarah and Daniel, once the darlings of the family, that now faced a public humiliation that would forever alter their lives. Their attempts to deny, to deflect, to manipulate were met with a wall of unwavering evidence and a family united in its condemnation. The shouts, the accusations, the cold stares, it was a relentless barrage of public disgrace. Sarah, cornered and exposed, resorted to tears, a desperate attempt to elicit sympathy. But it was too late. Her tears, once a potent weapon, now fell on deaf ears. Daniel, his charisma shattered, his charm evaporated, stood exposed as the manipulative individual he truly was. His usual quick wit and smooth excuses failed him, leaving him stammering, his face contorted with a mixture of rage and desperation. The family, tired of his antics, tired of his lies, had seen enough. The immediate consequence was a permanent estrangement from the family. Phone calls went unanswered, invitations ceased, and their names became synonymous with betrayal. Their social circles, once vibrant and extensive, began to shrink as friends and acquaintances distanced themselves from the scandal. Their reputations, once pristine, were now irrevocably tarnished, their names whispered with a mixture of pity and contempt. Sarah, who had once enjoyed the comfort and security of our shared life, found herself adrift, her future uncertain. Daniel, who had always relied on his charm and family connections, now faced a world where his manipulative tactics were exposed, his influence diminished. The poetic justice of it was not lost on me. They had sought to destroy my life, to undermine my relationships, to steal my happiness. Instead, they had destroyed their own, leaving them with nothing but the bitter taste of public shame and a future devoid of the respect they once craved. Their fall from grace, though less dramatic than a public scandal, was equally devastating, leaving them with nothing but the bitter taste of public shame and a future devoid of the respect they once craved. As the dust settled on Sarah and Daniel's public downfall, and I began to rebuild my life, a subtle yet persistent anomaly in the digital evidence began to resurface. The text messages, while explicit, contained cryptic references to the old house, to Grandpa's secret, to the truth about the inheritance. A fleeting thought, a whisper of unease, suggested that Sarah and Daniel's affair and Daniel's manipulative behavior weren't just about personal gratification or a desire for power. There were subtle mentions of hidden documents, of family secrets, of a legacy built on lies in their conversations, all linked to a long-standing family dispute over an ancestral property. It looked like their affair and Daniel's public persona were not just about personal indiscretion. They were a distraction, a brilliant, cruel smokescreen. While they were busy cultivating their secret life, and I was consumed by their infidelity, a far more insidious plot was lurking beneath the surface, a plot to exploit my trust to gain access to family assets, or perhaps to cover up a dark secret from the past. The betrayal was a dagger, but these digital breadcrumbs, these brief, unsettling glimpses into a world beyond simple infidelity, felt like a poison, slowly seeping into the very core of my being. It hinted at a deeper, more insidious betrayal, a connection I couldn't yet grasp, but one that promised to unravel far more than just my marriage. This wasn't just about a broken heart. It was about a broken trust on a much grander, more manipulative, and potentially criminal scale. And I had only just scratched the surface of a family conspiracy that threatened to expose generations of deceit. The family reunion, once a symbol of unity, had become the crucible of truth, and the aftermath was as explosive as the revelation itself. Sarah and Daniel, once the darlings of the family, now faced a public humiliation that would forever alter their lives. Their attempts to deny, to deflect, to manipulate were met with a wall of unwavering evidence and a family united in its condemnation. The shouts, the accusations, the cold stares, it was a relentless barrage of public disgrace. Sarah, cornered and exposed, resorted to tears, a desperate attempt to elicit sympathy. But it was too late. Her tears, once a potent weapon, now fell on deaf ears. Daniel, his charisma shattered, his charm evaporated, stood exposed as the manipulative individual he truly was. His usual quick wit and smooth excuses failed him, leaving him stammering, his face contorted with a mixture of rage and desperation. The family, tired of his antics, tired of his lies, had seen enough. The immediate consequence was a permanent estrangement from the family. Phone calls went unanswered, invitations ceased, and their names became synonymous with betrayal. Their social circles, once vibrant and extensive, began to shrink as friends and acquaintances distanced themselves from the scandal. Their reputations, once pristine, were now irrevocably tarnished, their names whispered with a mixture of pity and contempt. Sarah, who had once enjoyed the comfort and security of our shared life, found herself adrift, her future uncertain. Daniel, who had always relied on his charm and family connections, now faced a world where his manipulative tactics were exposed, his influence diminished. The poetic justice of it was not lost on me. They had sought to destroy my life, to undermine my relationships, to steal my happiness. Instead, they had destroyed their own, leaving them with nothing but the bitter taste of public shame and a future devoid of the respect they once craved. Their fall from grace, though less dramatic than a public scandal, was equally devastating, leaving them with nothing but the bitter taste of public shame and a future devoid of the respect they once craved. Healing, I discovered, was not a linear path. It was a winding road with unexpected detours into grief, anger, and profound sadness. The emotional scars of betrayal ran deep, but I was determined not to let them define my future. I sought professional help, engaging with a therapist who guided me through the labyrinth of shattered trust and emotional trauma. It was a difficult, often painful process, but essential for true recovery. I reconnected with old friends, those who had stood by me, offering unwavering support without judgment. I rediscovered passions I had long neglected, finding solace in long walks in nature, the quiet contemplation of art, and the challenge of learning a new skill. My story, once a private torment, became a beacon of hope for countless others trapped in similar webs of deceit. I used my newfound freedom to move to a new city, a place where I could rebuild my life away from the drama, away from the whispers, away from the ghosts of a past I was determined to leave behind. It was a fresh start, a blank canvas upon which to paint a new future. I found a new community, new friends, and a renewed sense of purpose. I wasn't just rebuilding my life. I was building a new identity, a new sense of self, free from the constraints of their deceit. The transformation was profound, not just for me, but for the countless individuals who found their own voices through mine. The unmasking at the family reunion, once a source of my pain, had become the catalyst for my greatest personal triumph, a testament to the enduring power of integrity and the strength of the human spirit. I learned to trust my instincts again, to recognize the subtle signs of manipulation, and to value authenticity above all else. My journey was far from over, but I was no longer a victim. I was a survivor, a warrior, armed with the truth and a renewed sense of self-worth. The quiet securing of my divorce and the significant settlement were not acts of vengeance, but acts of self-preservation. I was reclaiming my life, piece by painful piece, from the wreckage of their betrayal. The process was not without its emotional cost, but the clarity of purpose, the knowledge that I was acting with integrity and truth, provided a strange sense of peace. I was rebuilding my life, not on the ruins of theirs, but on a foundation of honesty and self-respect. The unmasking had not only revealed their truth, but had also liberated me, allowing me to move forward, free from the toxic influence that had poisoned my life for so long. As I settled into my new life, a quiet sense of peace began to replace the lingering echoes of betrayal. But then a subtle yet persistent anomaly in the digital evidence began to resurface, not as a whisper, but as a chilling roar. The text messages, while explicit, contained cryptic references to the old house, to Grandpa's secret, to the truth about the inheritance. A fleeting thought, a whisper of unease, suggested that Sarah and Daniel's affair and Daniel's manipulative behavior weren't just about personal gratification or a desire for power. There were subtle mentions of hidden documents, of family secrets, of a legacy built on lies in their conversations, all linked to a long-standing family dispute over an ancestral property. My blood ran cold. This wasn't just about Sarah and Daniel's infidelity or Daniel's personal deceit. This was a far grander, more insidious scheme, a generational pattern of manipulation. And Daniel, I realized with a sickening lurch, was not just a participant. He was a key operative, a highly skilled facilitator. We uncovered a labyrinthine web of forged wills, manipulated land deeds, and deliberately obscured financial records, all designed to consolidate control over the family's ancestral property and its vast hidden wealth. The affair with Sarah, the manipulation of family members, the subtle hints in the digital evidence, they were all interconnected, part of a larger, more sinister scheme. Daniel wasn't just having an affair. He was orchestrating a silent coup, using his charm and his position to gain access to family assets, to rewrite family history, to secure a legacy built on lies. Sarah, I realized, was not just a mistress. She was a co-conspirator, an accomplice, using her position within the family to provide him with cover, to manipulate information, to ensure the success of their illicit operations. The digital evidence, I now understood, wasn't just a tip-off about an affair. It was a desperate plea for help, a cry for justice from someone within the family who had witnessed the corruption and dared to expose it. The betrayal was a dagger, but this deeper, more insidious truth felt like a poison, slowly seeping into the very core of my being. It hinted at a family conspiracy that reached back generations, a network of deceit that had been operating with impunity, all under the guise of family loyalty. And I had only just scratched the surface of a truth that promised to unravel far more than just my marriage. This wasn't just about a broken heart. It was about a broken trust on a much grander, more manipulative, and potentially criminal scale. And I was now standing at the precipice of exposing a truth that would shake the very foundations of our family. Suddenly, every seemingly innocuous detail, every fleeting moment of unease coalesced into a terrifyingly clear picture. Daniel's charisma, his charm, his ability to always come out on top, not just signs of a natural leader, but the meticulous operational security of a seasoned manipulator. The cryptic references to the old house, to Grandpa's secret, to the truth about the inheritance in the text messages, not just casual banter, but coded language for illicit operations. The hints I had dismissed as mere red flags of infidelity were, in fact, breadcrumbs leading to a vast criminal enterprise, a network of deceit operating within the very heart of our family. The digital evidence, with its cryptic references to hidden documents and family secrets, was not just a random tip-off. It was a desperate plea from an insider, a silent cry for help from someone who had witnessed the corruption and dared to expose it. It was a carefully orchestrated act of defiance, designed to bring down a powerful criminal organization that had infiltrated the highest levels of our family. Daniel, I now understood, was not just a cheating brother. He was a highly trained operative, a facilitator par excellence, using his charm and his position to protect a criminal enterprise. He had used his impeccable reputation as the family favorite, his seemingly altruistic motives, and even the emotional vulnerabilities of his relatives as a shield for his illicit gains. He had played me, the family, and countless others like puppets on a string, all for the ultimate prize, vast sums of illicit profits and unchecked power within the family. My initial triumph over him felt hollow, replaced by a cold, simmering rage at the audacity of this generational scheme, its manipulative genius. They hadn't just cheated me, they had used me, exploited my trust, and turned my life into a stage for their criminal enterprise. But now, I had the knowledge. I had the true blueprint of their systemic deception. And this time, my retribution would be far more devastating, far more permanent. The game wasn't over. It had just entered a new, far more dangerous phase, one that would expose not just Daniel, but the entire network of corrupt individuals who had helped this family build its empire on a foundation of lies and human exploitation. I stood before the assembled family, the glare of the truth illuminating the intricate web of connections, the hidden truths of a generational conspiracy. The secrets, once buried in the shadows of family loyalty, now screamed from every line of the indictment. The truth, once a whisper, was now a roar. They thought they had won. They thought they had gotten away with it. But they had underestimated me. They had underestimated the power of a quiet man scorned and the collective strength of a family united by truth. And they had forgotten one crucial detail. In the world of integrity, every lie, every manipulated document eventually leaves a trace. And some secrets, once unearthed, refuse to stay buried. They fester, they twist, and they will always, always find their way back to the surface. Because the real game, the one they never saw coming, has only just begun. And this time, there will be no escape. Not for Sarah, not for Daniel, not for the family, not for anyone involved. The blueprint for their systemic destruction is now complete, and I'm ready to expose every single line of their hidden code. Are you ready to see what happens when the family reveals its darkest secrets?